Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast not sponsored by McGowan Industries. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with the creator of the Oakbridge podcast, Ashley Deane. Ashley, how are you doing today?
Hey, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Chris, for allowing me to come onto your wonderful show.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
absolutely.
be here, and I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, and yeah, I'm pleased you're here. I'm glad you're here. And yeah, I'm super excited that we got to make this happen finally.
Yeah, I
Hot
know
water
you had
heaters
some.
and hot water
Yeah,
heaters and stuff be damned.
I know. I mean, it's like that totally stinks. Like, been there like twice. It's not fun at
Yeah,
all.
this actually was the second time for me, but it was 2 years in between and it was the exact same issue. So I was like,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely time to look at getting a new one. For sure. All right. Well, I usually like to start these things off with an icebreaker question. So today's question for you, if you had to go for the rest of your life without drinking coffee or tea, which one would you choose? One of them has to
Oh,
go forever.
oh, hands down coffee. I'm not a
Yeah.
coffee drinker anyway, so but I love my sweet tea, man.
Okay.
I've tried like hot teas before. They're pretty decent, but I'm all about that sweet tea. But yeah, coffee, you can have that, man.
There
Like
you go.
I'm not a coffee person.
Yeah, me neither. And to be perfectly honest, I don't actually drink either one. But if I had to pick, it would definitely be coffee because I tried once. I had a cup of coffee. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try this. And I put so much creamer and sugar in it, it basically turned it to the color of like oat milk. And it still, I thought
Yeah,
it tasted awful. I was
exactly.
like,
You
no.
can't it's still there. I love hot chocolate though.
Oh yeah,
I'll
for
drink
sure.
that like during the winter. I like
Mhm.
hot chocolate, but coffee, nah.
Nope, I'm right there with you. And everyone thinks I'm weird. My wife and daughter really love coffee. I'm like, I can't. Sorry. Very cool. All right. So, the concept of the show, Fueled by Weird, is, all the hobbies and interests and stuff that you're into kind of come together and make you the person that you are. So, what are some of your hobbies and interests that you have?
Well, I feel like I don't really do that really all that much hobbies. I mean, I do have hobbies obviously, but
Sure.
comparatively, but really, I mean, I'm kind of just a simple person. I'm on the media team at my church, like running cameras and like sound, different things like that. Um, love my playing with my cat Clarence. He's awesome. Um, and then like hanging out with friends. Um, and I like to read. I'm in a book club as well.
Nice.
Uh,
That's cool.
so so those are kind of the big areas that I'm in hobby wise.
Nice.
Other than in
Sure.
podcasting.
Sure.
Uh, but yeah, those are where really what I find devote myself a lot of my time to.
Very cool. Yeah, those are some great hobbies. And Clarence, that's such a great name for a cat. My wife is a big fan of animals with people names, so I'm gonna have to make sure to tell her she's
Awesome.
gonna get a super big kick out of that.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so like I said before, you are the creator of the Oak Bridge podcast, and I've seen that you did quite a bit of writing for the show. So before we get into the podcast itself, I kind of want to go back in the Wayback Machine and find out what was it that got you interested in writing in the first place.
Um, I don't really consider myself like, a writer. I've always loved to tell stories ever since I was little. I'm an only
Mhm.
child, so a lot of me and my playtime was a lot by myself in my room. So I was always building little worlds and stuff in there with my toys and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I kind of consider myself to be more of a storyteller than just a writer. But I wanted to pursue writing because again, I love telling stories so much, and like I don't want to tell just any story. I want to tell stories that inspire people or really resonate with people in the audience.
Hmm.
And in Oakbridge's case, provide some nostalgia and some memories for them to boot. So
That's awesome. And I always hear this saying that, if you write, then you're a writer. It doesn't matter what kind of stuff that you write. So I think you definitely shouldn't be so hard on yourself because it doesn't matter what you write, you are a writer. So I think you should give yourself a little more credit for sure. But yeah, I mean, telling stories is a great way to get into things. And yeah, that's very cool. That's a good intro into your writing. I like that. So let's kind of transition a little bit now. How did, your love of storytelling, how did that transition into podcasting? What got you interested in podcasts? Or how were you
uh,
introduced into podcasts, I guess I should say.
well, to guess kind of answer your first part of your question, I guess I have to kind of go back to podcasting in general, not just audio dramas, because I really got into. I mean, I've listened to podcasts for a few years now, but
Mhm.
I really got into it myself back in June of 2021 when I decided to start my own podcast about talking about Stranger Things because I'm a big Stranger Things fan.
Oh, nice.
It's called the Ham Radio Stranger Things podcast,
Oh, nice.
and I mean basically just talk about the show I love. I mean we talk about all things Stranger Things over there. So you should definitely give it a listen if you
Definitely.
guys are into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but in terms of audio dramas, I really didn't start actually listening to audio dramas until like 2022 at work. Just have something filtering through my ears that wasn't just a normal talking podcast. And I thought, wow, these really remind me of like those old radio shows,
Mhm.
which I mean, basically what they are. And yeah, um, I found that there's more and more, like a lot of them out there. Um, and I just loved the concept of how you can basically listen to a TV show or a film without even watching it. And one of the big reasons I love audio drama so much is so you can only hear what's going on. You can't see anything. So you yourself can form that image in your mind of what you think a character looks like or what the setting and all that looks like. You can basically form that own picture in your mind of everything that's going on just by what you're listening to. So in essence, you're kind of creating some of the story yourself, or at least the visual part of it, and
Yeah.
um, that's what I enjoyed so much about audio dramas.
That's awesome. And actually, I like that line of thinking because, with my own writing, um, the way I write it, I kind of do it the same way where, I want to give the person reading. So I don't spend a lot of time on, detail like, this person was wearing this and this person looks like this and this is how their hair is and all the other details like that because I like the same thing. I like to let the reader kind of form that own opinion in their brain where they can, the character can look however you want. So that's really cool that, I'm not the only person out there that has the same ration of thinking. That's very cool. So with podcasting, let's talk a minute about, do you have any favorite podcasts? I mean, you said you started listening to audio dramas at work. What are some of your favorite podcasts you like to listen to?
So I think it'd be easier to go by genre
Okay.
because I
Sure.
listen to a lot throughout the day,
Hmm.
but really I love true crime. I like uh, historical ones. Like there's one that's called It's by the Noiser Network,
Hmm.
um, and it's narrated by Paul McGann, a British actor. I love his voice.
Yeah.
And they have a show called Real Dictators, and then they also did one on D-Day, and then they did some on the the gun show at the OK Corral. They've
Okay.
done a lot through that network. I especially love their work. Um, and obviously movies, films, reviews, entertainment,
Yeah.
um, conspiracy ones on conspiracy theories. It's just fun stuff to get me through the day at work.
Yeah.
Um, and then I also listen to one like on Bible series because I also like am involved in children's ministry, so I'll listen to that in preparation for when like I have to do my lessons and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but those are kind of my main ones that I enjoy, the genres I enjoy listening to.
That's cool. I like that a lot. I think you and my wife would get along very well. She's very much into true crime and she's
Yeah,
listening to Morbid all the time. That's one of the ones I know for sure she really likes.
yeah,
Lots of other true crime ones like that. She just can't get enough. It's not super much for me, but that's okay because that's not everything's made for everybody. So that's very cool.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
very cool. Okay, so the main event, I want to talk about Oakbridge. So I want to start by saying, Threads, I was quick to judge Threads. At first I thought Threads was kind of an annoying, social media app. I'm like, oh man, here, like they always say, here's another social media app, blah, 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 and it's gonna be the new hot thing, and then it kind of goes away for a while. But Threads, from what I've heard, ended up being a lot better than I thought it was. So I thought, hey, let's give it a chance. And yeah, Threads is kind of awesome. And that's actually how you and I met, was through Threads, and you introduced me to your show called Oakbridge. So I binged it very quickly. I'm a super huge fan. Matter of fact, I have the voice of Mr. Jack Harris on tomorrow, so I'm very, very excited about that.
Awesome,
Um,
awesome.
I'm very excited to talk to Connor. But for those who don't know, who haven't heard of Oak Bridge, why don't you break it down a little bit and kind of talk about what Oak Bridge is?
Yeah, so Oakbridge is a sci-fi mystery thriller audio drama set in the early 1990s, season one in 1991, the fall of 1991. And the series as a whole it's basically about just mysterious occurrences that plague this small town of Oakbridge in Ohio after um, a nuclear power plant facility is built there, and it's just about the journey of our characters going through the dark secrets of this town of Oakbridge and what lies beneath and all that. But season one is about these two teenagers are murdered, um, and it's up to Deputy Jack Harris and his friends and a rookie cop named Jimmy Lopez to um, solve the case. And along the way, they learn some of those dark secrets and things that are going on behind the scenes that none of them would have ever imagined possible in their small town.
Yeah, man, it's such a good show. And, I was listening and I was kind of getting more and more into it. But then as soon as that episode hit with Jack's backstory, man, that floored me. Oh my God, it was so good. It was
Yeah,
so, so good.
yeah. Nathan McKee, one of our talented writers, he did an excellent job with that episode. I told him, like, look, man, like, what we have, outlines for the episodes, so the writers kind of know kind of what they need to do and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just up to them to plug and play and kind of add dialogue and you know put life into it. And I basically just told him, I said, with this one, Nathan, I want you to make sure that someone who's listening out there tears up. I want it to pierce them in the heart with this one. So, do what you have to do. And he absolutely he knocked it out of the park. And so did Connor, like Connor Howard.
Yeah,
This was probably my favorite episode, truthfully.
it was really good.
Um, yeah, because Connor just really brings raw emotion there, and you can it's so believable that
Yeah.
like what that this guy's wife and child uh you know were suddenly taken from him, and that kind of uh, the domino effects, fell kind of for him from that. But yeah, it's when it was being edited, I loved it from start to finish. And even now, re-listening to it, it's still probably my favorite episode from season one.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. So, let's talk a little bit about, your inspiration for the show. How did you come up with, Oakbridge and, some of the ideas and just how the characters, how did you come up with all of that? Like, what was your inspiration?
Yeah, so I think just a lot of my inspiration for basically a lot of the premise was from my own experiences of living in a small town.
Hmm.
One actually that um, is located like nearly 100 miles from a nuclear facility. Actually, two of them. There's
Oh,
two.
wow.
Um, yeah, and um, yeah, and so in terms of like the entertainment parts and our characters, just a lot of really paying homage to shows and films that I grew up watching and that I enjoyed, like The X-Files, Stranger Things, obviously,
Sure.
Twin Peaks, Outer Limits, the cult classics, you know, any Julia Roberts film, uh,
Okay.
um, any film based on a John Grisham book.
Okay.
Uh, love like the Pelican Brief, probably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I hate it that it gets so, in my opinion, overshadowed by the Rain Man, but that's okay. Um, and so yeah, I mean, and also just my own love of conspiracy theories and historical events and you know history. I was a history major in college, so
oh,
there's some
nice.
of that in play as well. And I was also born in the 90s, so it's also paying homage to the decade in which I was born. Um,
Nice.
so I guess I can't really say I created it based off like one main idea. I mean, there was certainly many that came into play.
So kind of like a hodgepodge of ideas from all over the place.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
just a whole melting pot of ideas.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born in the 90s, but I grew up in the 90s. And yeah, it was a very different time back then. Kids nowadays just don't appreciate kind of the stuff that they have now. I think for sure, just the joy of walking into like a Blockbuster video and just perusing the shelves. Just that's something that kids are just, it's a foreign idea to them. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And I think too, especially from like the mystery component,
Hmm.
I've always found those works that are set 30, 40, 50 years ago
Hmm.
because they didn't have the internet and phones or smartphones back then. So
Yeah,
it was a lot harder to figure that kind of stuff out
oh, for
and
sure.
to communicate and things like that. So I've always really enjoyed um, those kind of components to mysteries because it's so
Yeah,
interesting to see how the characters figure everything out and how they communicate that to one another.
definitely. Now, for the creation process and just what does like a typical session look like when you guys are trying to put together an episode?
Uh, so so the first big step is like obviously the writing. You
Hmm.
know we go through like the brainstorming and then we'll do like a skeletal outline and then like a flesh outline as I like to call it. And then from that the flesh outline then comes the actual scripting. Um, and so that kind of took for season one like uh, about 6 months, give or take. Um, a little bit more had to go into that because I was developing the series as a whole and not just the first episode.
Sure.
Um, but then from there, casting auditions, and then after we decided who we wanted, we cast we cast the actors in their respective roles. Then we went into recording, which took place from January to around March of this year,
Oh, nice.
and and then right after everything was recorded and cut, and then it went to uh, our sound engineer Joe Bly for post production, which took about 3 months, so like March to about June ish. Um, and so then after all that was done, Joe sent in files, and then it was all uploaded and then distributed, and then just we release like on a weekly basis, so like one episode a week. And yeah, I mean that was a lot of like basically our process. Um, I felt like it was a pretty seamless process.
Sure. Yeah, I think it worked out really well. Again, I kind of tuned in toward the end of it, when you guys had already released a whole bunch of episodes. But yeah, I mean, I thought everything, was really good. So I'm really, really excited for you guys. Like we had mentioned that season one, I guess we didn't mention this yet, but season one just barely finished. What are your feelings on, your season being wrapped up? What are some of the I guess what are some of the I can't even think of the word I want to say. Um, what are some of your feelings having a whole season wrapped up, um, just now that the whole process is over?
Certainly that I can uh, chill a little bit. Um, that's definitely one.
Yeah,
But no, I just really just knowing that I can go back and listen to it anytime I want. It's now, real. I
yeah,
think that's probably the best part about uh, you know, after the season's out is just being to go back and re-listen to it and just enjoy it and yeah, just have a little breather, be able to focus on like things like this, coming onto your show.
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Well, now that season one is done, what can you talk about what's coming? What's coming up next for you guys?
Well, obviously we're gonna have a second season. But like for me, like as like personally as a creator, um, I'd say that I have some ideas for things I would like to do in the future. But I'm gonna keep those kind of close to the vest for now.
Okay, sure.
But look, I'll be honest with you, um like with everything doing with Oakbridge, I don't I don't have a lot of time to really focus on any other like real projects.
I understand that all
Especially
too
like
well.
leading them.
Yeah,
Like there's something like some I've had some people kind of reaching out to me that are interested in starting like their own stuff and just asking me like, hey, could you give me advice for us, things like that, and kind of helping them with some of that stuff, but
yeah,
purely from like consultation, not like actually writing anything.
right.
But um, this is something I used to struggle with when I was younger, and I've gotten a lot better about it as I've gotten older. But I don't like to really bite off more than I can chew. So I like to take those things as they come.
Hmm.
And I feel like as a creator, you can and sometimes will lose yourself and your creativity, maybe
Yeah,
your drive over time due to
for sure.
burnout.
Hmm.
Um, and so, like, whatever project like you're working on could suffer from that. And I wouldn't want that to happen with Oakbridge. So I'm trying to keep it Oakbridge for, um, for now. So,
Yeah. No, I definitely can understand that. I think a lot of other creators can understand that where, you try to stack your plate too full and then, you try to think you can balance or more like, spinning plates. You think you can keep all the plates spinning in the air, but then you realize that at one point you might add too many plates and then some other ones are going to start to fall. So yeah, yeah, That's definitely a relatable feeling for sure. That's cool. So season two, um, do you guys are you guys underway with the process for preparing for season two? Like what what can we expect with season two?
Yeah, obviously not much I can say in that department other
Right,
than
yeah, sure.
it is in development. Um, but I mean, I'm excited about things that are gonna happen in season two, um, and just really progressing the story and get for the audience to get more time with these characters. I think um, I'm very much looking forward to that.
And if I remember correctly, I saw there is a big announcement about season two recently that's coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Uh, yeah, we're holding auditions
That's
for
very
season
cool.
two. Yeah.
You gonna talk about that a little bit?
Um, yeah, so they'll begin Thursday, October the 10th, and then we'll have another session on October the 12th.
Mhm.
And the sign up link is in our link tree. There's also a post on our Instagram and X and Threads with the QR code. So if anyone's interested, you can go do that. Or if you're interested, but you would like some more information, you could just you could send an email to Oakbridge series at gmail.com, or just message us on Instagram, X Threads, uh, Facebook, whatever you're on, if you'd like more information. But yeah, we got a couple roles from season two that are gonna need some voices. So we'd love to have you.
Very cool. And is there any previous voiceover experience necessary, or can anybody just apply?
No, if you uh, have a voice and you want to come audition. Uh, you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to have any previous experience. Just yeah, come as you are.
Very cool. Actually, I was taking a look at that and it's kind of exciting. I don't know if I fit the age role for a couple of those, but I think that might be fun to try anyway, because it's always been something I've kind of wanted to do. So you might see my name pop up here.
Oh, we could auto tune you, no problem.
Perfect. All right.
We could make your voice sound younger
There you
or
go.
fit whatever character you wanted to play.
There you go. That sounds like a plan. All right, Miss Ashley, before I let you go, I want to give you a minute to share a bit of advice with some of your fellow creatives. You mentioned that people have been reaching out to you about starting a podcast, and this might be a good way to help spread your advice for that or for really any other bit of advice you might want to give.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You kind of cut out a
Um,
little bit.
no,
Yeah, you
you're
kind
good.
of cut out a little bit. Sorry.
I apologize. So, before I let you go, this is the kind of the point in the show where I like to give, my guest a chance to share some creative advice with your fellow creatives. So whatever advice you'd like to share, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I don't consider myself an expert at all. So I
That's
just
okay.
only by what I've learned
Sure.
as I've been in the industry and all that, and really kind of throughout my life, I guess. But um, you know, obviously, as I mentioned before, like uh, just don't overload yourself and with more work than you can handle. Um, I think the biggest advice I could give would just be to go do it. Like, just go for it and see what happens. I mean, this may sound a bit cliche, but I mean, the worst they can tell you is no. And if they do, just don't be discouraged. Keep chopping and pursuing your dream. Um, it will pay off eventually. I think that one of the worst things that a creative can do is to put a good idea on the shelf because yeah, discouragement or not thinking that they're good enough or that their idea wasn't good enough because they got turned away or got rejected. because somebody out there will take notice of you eventually and of your idea and will recognize that it's good. So just don't give up on your dream.
That's good advice. Thank you. Now, before I let you go, let's give you a chance to go ahead and promote and plug whatever you'd like. So where can we keep up to date on things that are coming from you and things that are coming from Oakbridge?
Yeah, so I have account on Instagram, Ashley Deane Creator. That's ASHLEY Deane. That's how you spell my last name. So, um, and then of course you can follow the show on Instagram, X, and Threads, and Facebook, all at Oakbridge Show, like one word. So you can always keep up with the show through our official account.
Very cool. Now, for my show, first I'd like to thank Polygon Horizon for the use of their song Pizza Force. They're a great band. Go check them out on Bandcamp. Show them some love. You can find Fueled by Weird on Instagram and Facebook, just at Fueled by Weird. You can shoot me an email at fueledbyweird@gmail.com. You can find the Fueled by Weird show on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and now on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Manroom show with Hassel and Monster, and Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment, and No Chinese Food. Now, the Stay Weird Network's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. You can check us out at Stay Weird Media on YouTube and Instagram, and you can shoot us an email at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. And I'd also like to thank my sponsor, the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia, your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. Now, if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life is too short to be normal, so stay weird. And make sure you check out Oakbridge Season 1, streaming anywhere you get your podcasts. And I'll make sure we put a link in the notes so people can go find you guys. Ashley, thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Chris. And again,
Yeah.
you find Oak Ridge everywhere you listen to your podcast, and listen to Chris's podcast. I mean, I know you probably already, but if you're listening out there and you're not sure who you should listen to, uh, go listen to Chris's podcast.
I appreciate that, Ashley. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.